Are they okay, or what are they doing? They're playing Wordle or something? You guys ready to go? All right, we ready? All right, okay, good evening. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission for the Village of Vernon Hills, and we need to start with a roll call.
Commissioner Heidner.
Here.
Commissioner Lees.
Here.
Commissioner Nabbit.
Here.
Commissioner Smith.
Here.
Chairman Morris.
Here.
Commissioner Cotton and Fluno both gave prior notice they would be unable to attend.
Okay, but nonetheless, we have a quorum. First this evening is whether there's any general public comment. It does not look like that, so we will go right to our items for review. First is public hearing for case 2024-03, a petition filed by Anton Parr requesting approval of variations for off-street parking and loading and reducing parking and parking stall dimensions. This is the property at 600 Hickory Hill Drive, zoned BP Business Park District. So who's going to speak on behalf of the petitioner? Whoever it is, could you come forward, please? Okay, do you want to introduce yourselves, please?
Sure. Good evening. My name is Jorge Gonzalez. I'm the VP of Sales and Service for Anton Parr USA Central Region. We have our office located in Vernon Hills.
Okay, anyone else going to speak with you this evening?
Yep.
Good evening. My name's Carl Heitman, president of Heitman Architects, architect for the building.
Okay.
Be able to answer questions?
And the rest are just moral support?
We've got our team here if they.
Okay. Anyone's going to speak, we'll swear everybody in at once is why. So if you introduce yourself.
I don't know if I'm going to speak, but I'm Kevin Schaefer from Hager Engineering.
Fair enough.
Zophyr Pollard from Heitman Architects as well.
Okay, so we ask you to raise your right hand and swear or affirm that this testimony you're about to give before this commission of the Village of Vernon Hills shall be the truth.
I do.
I do.
Okay, the primary rule is you need to speak from a microphone since this is being televised, either the handheld or the permanent ones that are attached to the podium. Okay, we have some preliminary statements, then we'll let you get on with it.
Just a couple of preliminary statements. The petition, the first petition here from Anton Parr this evening is a little bit unusual in that buildings within Corporate Woods, according to the Corporate Woods Regional PUD, a building that doesn't require a variation or a special use does not actually require Planning and Zoning Commission review. The reason that this review has been triggered is because there are two variations requested in conjunction with this petition. One for the total number of required parking spaces associated with the building, and we also discovered during technical review that a 18.5-foot parking stall, which is considered to be a standard dimension for parking stalls, is actually 1.5 feet short of what is in the Corporate Woods PUD and in the Vernon Hills zoning code. So we require a 20-foot parking stall dimension. So those are the two variations they are here for. Just a couple of notes beyond that. I did put a recommendation regarding the site plan and appearance in here because I was not totally sure if that was a requirement. I figured better safe than sorry. But what has triggered the review is the variations. Okay. The variation quantity is incorrect in the motion. There are actually 65 parking stalls shown on the plan. One of the plans shows 67, and I saw that number and used it in the motion, so it should be 65.
Okay.
With that, have you seen the slides as revised?
Yeah.
We removed some of the additional interior renderings. Everything else is there, though.
Okay, good.
And you can drive the presentation if you'd like.
Perfect.
I'll be happy to.
Should we start with there or just an introduction of?
Why don't you introduce the company and then we'll introduce the building.
Well, just a brief introduction. I was here last year, I believe, when we were doing the due diligence, when we were in the process of purchasing the land. Anton Parr is an Austrian company that develops and manufactures scientific instrumentation, primarily used in a wide range of different industries. One of our top applications is we help the main soft drink manufacturers like Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola to measure the sugar content and dissolved CO2 to make sure their products meet their quality standards. We also work with the DOTs for different states to ensure the asphalt meets the viscoelastic properties of the asphalt before it is put into the roads. Just to name a few applications. We are a subsidiary that sells and supports that instrumentation in the U.S. Anton Par USA was established in 1986, and in 2019 we decided to split into 4 different regions. My region, the region I'm responsible for, operates out of Vernon Hills, and we have a team of 50 individuals. 12 of those individuals are based in the office, and based on the growth that we have experienced in the last 5 years, we decided to build our own office for equipment demonstration purposes, as well as support for our customers. So that's just a general overview. Good. And Carl is going to talk more about the design of the.
So we submitted a series of slides, color renderings of the building, and we have an animation. I don't know if you had a chance to view the animation.
We did the process of displaying it for the group would cause us to basically stop the meeting for a couple minutes. So I talked to Todd and opted not to have it available.
Okay, we have it if you want to see it. But basically, the building is a precast concrete building, and we've utilized aesthetic features like the sloped entryway and the sloped glazing on the stairwell, which is reminiscent of their facility in Europe. We use a color red predominantly. The interesting thing is we're building on top of where there's an existing parking lot, and we're preserving the green space, and basically we're converting the parking lot to a building footprint plus the additional parking we have. So this slide is the entry. I think we can go to the next slide. Do I have control of this? Yeah, I do. So we're walking around the building. You can see the building has a lot of natural light, a lot of glass. There's a patio on the west side of the building that opens into a cafe on the inside of the building. And there's a second floor, which is right now going to be used for expansion purposes. The building functions as primary laboratory and customer service center. So there's labs that are actually demonstration labs for their customers, and there's tech labs that do other innovative work. So it's, as you go around the building, this would be the east elevation dock wall. It's a recessed dock, and you can see the parking lot in the foreground, which is where the parking lot exists today. This is the west elevation, which is focuses towards an existing pond, detention pond, which the property bisects the pond with the neighbor to the west. And there you can see the outdoor patio with the umbrellas. There's an office section just to the left of that, where the logo is where the kitchen and cafe is. The office section is there, and then on the far left is a parts warehouse portion, which takes up a portion of the first floor. So here's a plan of the development, and you can see that actually the service dock is on the far right. It's deep set into the building, so trucks will actually enter the property and then back into that dock, and the truck is really screened from the building, and they really have very minor truck usage. It's just for parts moving in and out of the building. How many trucks per week or day do you think you'd have?
One every other day.
Very light truck use. And this is a picture of the inside of the building. You can see there's a large training room in the dead center. Then it's flanked by laboratories on the east and the west. The customer experience area and the entry is on the left lower corner. And you can see the office furniture is where the office area is nice cafeteria with the outdoor patio. So it's really a customer-centric facility and high-end employment base. The second floor is basically vacated for now. It's used for an expansion in the future. We're building it now. The gray portion on the right would be where the high bay part storage is, and then there's an atrium off the kitchen, upper left, and the entryway is lower left. We're utilizing native materials, and we're working with Gary R. Weber to develop the landscape. I think it'll fit in nicely with the existing landscape in the park. There are a few images here of what's going on inside. Very high branded, sophisticated interior. This is a view of the steps, stairs up to the upper lobby, which will be a hospitality bar for our guests. This is the main kitchen area and cafe, and it opens into the outdoor patio with the pond beyond. So you can see the level of finishes and the basically the quality of the building. It's a view of the cafe from the patio. And then that's, I guess, the next project. So we're here to answer questions, and we appreciate your time.
Any questions?
I was, maybe, Andrew, you can go over again what exactly the parking variation is.
So we, based on the code, they would require, I believe it was 85 stalls. We looked to the petitioner and their projection of their own demand in the justification for the variation. So you can see in the staff report, they believe that sort of the worst case, reasonable worst case scenario, I believe was 52 stalls. And that includes, I think, 20 visitors being there while you had trainees in the building at the same time. So it was a pretty generous, reasonable worst case projection. And they do have 65 stalls shown. The 85 just comes from the assumption that a building of that size would require that many people. In this case, they do actually have available land area. We had a discussion not too long ago on a similar development that didn't have any available land area, and there was a concern. But in this case, there is available land area, and the staff had no concern with this.
Would it be
particular
enough to bring it up to 85 if necessary?
I think they probably could. You start getting into removing the green space to the north and west, and it didn't seem necessary based on the very small number of people that they have.
Okay.
What's the car count?
And as far as the length of the spot?
That was an unusual find during technical review. Both the zoning code and the Corporate Woods Regional PUD have a minimum depth of 20. It is very typical to have an 18.5-foot deep parking space. So,
And that would not be any different than what it was as a parking lot?
that's
correct?
it is.
Is that correct?
It's currently striped at 18.5.
Okay.
Those numbers given the 32 employees and 20 guests, is that built out, including upstairs?
The,
You said there's 32 employees and 20 possible guests?
now, originally, we have space for 10, 15, for around, roughly 30 employees in the first phase, yeah.
Per first and second floor?
Yeah, most of our employees also travel, so they are not at the office at all times. So it is expected to be within the 56 maximum capacity with visitors.
Did the fire department have a problem that they can't go all the way around this building?
They did in the initial review because they weren't sure what was going to be in the building, but they worked with the petitioner and determined that they didn't need a full fire lane around the building.
Okay, so they're satisfied.
They were.
How about a trash enclosure? Where are you storing your waste?
The waste is inside the building to be removed through the dock
So the
periodically.
garbage truck would come into your dock and,
Yeah.
And what size trucks do you have?
Full.
No, you don't have, oh, a full?
Full
semi.
over-the-road 53-foot trailers.
Okay. And do you use any hazardous or volatile chemicals in your facility?
We don't in large quantities. For example, we have a permit for ethanol, but that's pretty much it.
They're in cabinets, right, in the laboratory?
Yeah, we have.
In fireproof cabinets, small quantities.
Anybody else? Why can't you accommodate 20-foot spaces?
Our drive space, I think the aisle space combined with the parking space is 60 foot wide,
Right.
which is fairly typical for most any development anywhere, and we understand that that has been allowed in this village for lots of projects, so
That doesn't answer the question. That just says why you're trying to justify it.
well, we're trying to reduce the impervious pavement. We're trying to increase the green space. All of our parking stalls are, they're not head-in, they've got overhang capabilities. I understand that your staff doesn't accept overhang, but we have plenty of room for overhang for the larger stall.
So the green space you're trying to save, it's not on the building side, it's on the opposite side?
Be on both sides.
How, putting aside that you believe that 18.5 is common, if you walk around the village or any suburban location and you look at the preponderance of much larger vehicles now than probably 10 or 15 years ago, and if you use like an F-150 pickup truck, which is the most popular one in the United States, it's between 17 and 20 feet depending upon how you option it. And if you get a full-size one, it's up to 22 to 24 feet. How does this work?
Well, I'm not familiar with that big of a vehicle typically. I'm sure you're right. I see them on huge vehicles on the road.
Right.
With tiny drivers, but go ahead.
I could speak a little. So the site plan from north to south, we're basically at the north setback line with the north line of the curb line. We're right on that.
Why don't you
So-
put it up on the screen while you describe it? Might make it more illustrative for everybody. I think you had one. There you go. Nope, you don't like that one?
Go to this, that one.
Okay.
So north is to the right side of the page. So we're right at the rear 10-foot setback line with the back of the curb, basically,
Right.
on the north side. And then as you go linearly from north to south, we're kind of maxing out everything, you know, between where the front drive aisle is and the building and the spacing you need. There's not much room, so we can't, if we try to expand out that extra 1.5 feet, we lose all that space, and the building would potentially need to get smaller. So as Carl mentioned, we have no head-to-head vehicle parking, meaning we don't have a center, so that helps us. So a lot of municipalities, in addition to having 9 by 18 or 9 by 18.5, do allow for the vehicle overhang. So you're concerned about the larger 20-foot or 22-foot. A typical vehicle, especially a bigger vehicle like that, would probably overhang at least 2 feet. So since we don't have any head-to-head interior parking, you know, I would technically argue our stalls could accommodate like at least a 20.5-foot long vehicle without any issue. And then another thing is, so that rear parking that will probably get used the least, has a 24-foot drive aisle, but the drive aisle, the main drive aisle on the east side of the building, if you notice the dimension, that's bigger than your code required width, and that's mainly for the truck to get through there and swing. So most of the time, the trucks aren't going to be there, so if a vehicle overhung or hung out into that drive aisle a little bit, there's extra distance from a normal drive aisle, which your code only requires 24 feet, I believe.
Yeah, so couldn't you make that 24 feet?
Well, we don't want to encourage people to not pull all the way forward in the stall, so people will try to follow the stripe line, but as you know, in a parking lot, people don't always follow where the pavement markings are relative to, so I don't think it makes sense to stick striping out, you know, further into the drive aisle. We want to encourage people to pull into the stall so they're not, the back of their vehicle doesn't overhang. And they don't have a lot of traffic coming through this site. A lot of their workers are gonna come in the day, park, they might leave somewhere at lunchtime, but you're not gonna have like the whole office coming and going like constantly. And then when people come in, they pretty much come in and do a training thing all day long, so they park in the stall, they're there, and then when they're done, they leave.
Exactly, yeah.
What kind of curb is it?
Um,
So you're counting-
E612 curb and gutter, so 6-inch high back with a 1-foot gutter.
Okay. And typically I've seen if you're counting an overhang, it goes down to 4 inch.
No, a typical tar, like I drive a 2019 Mustang, and the front of my car, which is low, can just make it over a 6-inch high curb.
Not sure my car can, but okay. What's in the, kind of the circular, it's on the left of the diagram?
That's all green space. There's a 50-foot building setback line there that we're basically right on top of.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, and your lot includes the detention pond, it looks like?
Pardon?
Your lot includes the detention?
It straddles
It's both?
half of the west line, so half of the pond approximately is on our site, and half of the property, or pond is on the property immediately to the west.
Do you want to speak to your landscape plan at all? Do you want to tell us anything about it?
Oh, do you want me to
Yeah,
describe it?
right, yes.
Again, it's using native plants. We've got some deciduous trees and some evergreens, I believe. The idea was to naturalize the pond edge and create an amenity of the green space that's west of the building. You asked about that space to the street.
Right.
That's pretty generous green space. I think it'll give us a nice front lawn to the building. And we're looking for, you're creating a really pleasing image to our neighbors and also to the customers that will be coming here. So you can see a series of native plants, the blue stems, the coneflowers, grasses. We've got native grasses. So, again, I'm not a landscape architect, and we didn't
Okay.
think we'd be answering specifically those questions, but
Along the right side, where there's the little thin strip to the property line from the back of the curb to there,
yes.
is that sprinklered? In other words, how does that stuff live on? And that's such
We're
a
using
small,
drought-tolerant plants where I don't think we're sprinkling that strip at all.
the same with the, they're not really islands, the little projections?
We don't, pardon me?
Are those aren't sprinklered either, I assume?
No.
Okay. Okay. All right, anybody else?
Has staff reviewed that landscape?
The public works staff did, yes.
And he mentioned evergreen, but I don't see anything evergreen in the
No,
pictures that are here.
The boxwoods do stay green.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing on there. There are some existing trees that aren't labeled on this that are also to remain.
Okay, anybody else?
Just a general question. Do you know who maintains the pond? The detention facility? Anybody?
I believe it's actually the corporate woods.
The Corporate Woods?
Yeah, I believe too. It's the Corporate Woods HOA, I believe.
Okay.
They have something like 6 ponds, and they're named Corporate Woods Pond 1 through 6.
Clever. All right, I'll note that notices went out, and it looks like we did not receive any comments.
Correct.
And then I note in our packet, under the, for the variance, under section 21.5, there are responses, which I presume are the petitioner's responses to the elements that are part of the record here as well. This is a public hearing, so if anyone from the public wishes to speak, this would be such a time. Okay. Seeing no great rush to speak, we can close the public comment portion. Any other questions from the commission? Jim?
I just want to make a comment that I appreciate the fact that you're land banking and not paving over all that green area. I appreciate that very much. And I think your facility is a very nice-looking facility compared to what we've seen go up and just slapping a couple walls up. So I'm very impressed with your facility.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah, I think architecturally it's very attractive. It looks like a great building. I want to explain what I'm going to do. As some of my friends up here know, but you do not know, I have a real issue putting aside what the current ordinances say with parking in villages because of what we now see on the roads. So in terms of the parking variance, I'm going to vote against it, not because I don't think this should go forward. I think it should, but it's more I'm making a protest statement that I think in general, everybody's got to look at parking to be able to get people in and out of spaces, especially perpendicular parking with these gigantic vehicles. As one of you noted, the lines on the pavement are probably more advisory in nature than really mandatory for many people now. And maybe I'm just jealous because I don't drive a gigantic truck, but a small sports car. So just so you understand what I'm doing, I'm not against you, I'm for you. So that's just my statement. So with that, anything else, anybody? If not, we have a standing motion to approve, and our first motion really is as we're sitting as the Zoning Board of Appeals, which is to make findings of fact and recommend approval of certain variances, which would be the approval of a variation from section 19.6 to reduce required parking stalls from 85 to 65, and secondly, approval of a variation from section 19.8.8 to reduce the required length of a parking stall from 20 feet to 18.5 feet. We need a second for that.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? If not, we need a roll call.
Commissioner Heidner,
Yes.
Commissioner Leese,
Yes.
Commissioner Nevitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
and Chairman Morris.
No, for the reasons I stated, but I am in favor of the reduction of the number of stalls. Okay. Secondly, I guess we're sitting now as the Planning and Zoning Commission, which would be recommend approval of the preliminary and final site plan, landscape plan, and architectural approval with respect to, I could read them all, but in our packet, the reference documents. I do know the site plan has the particular size parking spaces on it. So once again, my vote does not suggest that I'm going to vote for it, that I'm in favor of the smaller spaces. I'm really just, in favor of a better and a more reasoned look at parking in general. But with that, we need a second.
Second?
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none.
I have one
Okay.
one question on
Yeah.
the photometrics on the site. You did a great job keeping to your boundaries of the site overall, but there is quite a bit of bleed on the parking lot on the west. What's driving that bleed with wall packs? That seemed kind of surprising with the spacing. You may not have that picture. It was in our packet, though. If
Which direction are you?
just
the west
to the
side?
west here, if you look at the photometric bleed over, I was just surprised. It was very well controlled over on the east side, Plan East. I was just surprised to see it push so far to the west. I was just curious what drove that.
I'm not sure, are you referring to the west where the pond is?
Yes. I guess plan west. It just went pretty far out past the drive and back on the other side of the building. It doesn't appear that it goes over your property line. It just seemed like it was quite a bit of bleed.
I don't know of any specific reason that happens other than lighting the patio and for security.
It actually didn't show the patio lighting on the photometric plan, but anyway, something you might want to look at. It's a very well-done building, and you're hitting a lot of good sustainable points, so, light bleed is certainly one of those elements.
Light bleed is something we wouldn't support, so if we could focus the lights down or look at a different lens, we certainly will do that.
Who seconded this one?
This was seconded by Commissioner Leese.
That's all.
Thank you.
Although you've the second for the current motion, would you be in favor if we amend our motion to include an additional condition that the photometric plan be reexamined between staff and the petitioner with respect to this issue being discussed? Okay, so we'll amend it with that. And with that, if there's no other comments, we can vote.
Commissioner Leese,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner,
Yes.
Commissioner Nabbit,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
and Chairman Morse.
Yes. Okay,
Thank you.
good
Thank
luck.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next this evening, we have public hearing for case 2024-04, a petition filed with respect to, I'm going to mispronounce it, I'm sure, Saragem, requesting certain variations from the requirements of the zoning code regarding signs for the property at 700 East Town Line Road, Suite 200, which is Zone B1 General Business District. Okay. You have some comments on this, too?
Sure, do you want to swear him in?
Oh, I'm
first?
sorry. You want to identify yourself? I'm sorry.
Yes, my name is Michael Shin. I'm the owner of Neon Art Sign Company. Good evening, everybody.
Okay, we'll ask you to raise your right hand and swear or affirm that this testimony you're about to give before this Commission of the Village of Vernon Hills shall be the truth.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It is.
Now you have time.
Just a couple of quick staff notes on this one. This, for a sign package, we probably spent more time flipping through files in the basement than your typical sign package here. So just before the petitioner presents, the history of how this came to be is a little bit confusing. There was a facade renovation package related to Bibi Bop. It was done about a year and a half to 2 years ago. In conjunction with that, there were elevation drawings that illustrate these signs in this configuration. The Saragem tenant was not in the picture yet, but there was a placeholder sign that said tenant space or something above Bibi Bop. I went through the history of the building. This building has had signage in that configuration without a variation for roughly 10 years prior to Bibi Bop coming in. The sign code does not allow a sign to be located off of the tenant space. So the premises, according to the sign code, is defined as the frontage of the tenant space. So once the tenant space ends, a tenant can't put their sign on another tenant's space. So this building does have a variation for the two-panel monument sign. These were done at the same time. I do not know why that variation didn't extend to the wall sign, but it is worth noting, and the history may explain why the property management did allow Bibi Bop to move ahead with this. And there certainly is a sign drawing that was approved by ordinance that shows the Bibi Bop sign in that location. So with that, I would pass it on to Mr. Shin to explain the sign package.
Before he does, is this, because of where it is, subject to the regional PUD for Hawthorne Mall?
It is outside of the PUD, so it is in the it's right. It is not part of the Hawthorne Mall PUD.
Oh, okay.
And which tenant is closest to 60 here?
The Saragem. This is the Saragem wall.
Okay.
If the Bibi Bop sign were not installed there, it would not have triggered us looking into the variation.
Okay, right. Ron?
So this sign package was, it's actually like a chain from Korea of massage chairs, and they're trying to come over here. So I was presented by a sign package by their corporate overseas, and these are kind of like examples of signage that they have there. In regards to the sign that we're just talking about on the south elevation, I would just like to request a sign there. I think, you know, given it be their building, and I think that this elevation is just vital for business identification. Seeing the placement of it being in the mall as you come in, this is kind of like the side you see. So yeah, basically, I think it would help the business a lot, having the business identification there, and I would like to request some help from you
Could you
guys.
flip back through those again? One more. Yeah, one more. Yeah, this one. What am I seeing on the right? That's south elevation. So that's facing Route 60.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Now that's, yeah, I know it says coming soon, but there you say the name, the lounge, you have the word lounge on there as well.
Yes, sir.
Whereas this that we were presented does not say lounge.
Yes, sir.
And to me, this sign is confusing because it looks like a parent and a subsidiary sign.
Sorry, I was trying to get through.
Oh, there you go.
So that the Saragen is the parent corporation of,
Yeah, I could kind of understand the confusion in that design.
and I think if it said the lounge there as well, you'd identify it as two separate businesses.
But I agree. I agree. And I think, I don't want to move forward without authority, but onto the next sign on hand, this one actually, it says Surgeon Lounge. And I think their business model is, obviously, they're trying to sell these massage chairs that they manufacture from overseas, but also, with this sign, that would essentially, if you guys approve, it would just go above the door, and it wouldn't be like too illuminated. It would be basically routed steel letters that are painted that we would mount and kind of uplight, and the light would not be that bright, but, sorry for the long explanation. Basically, I think this Sarajem Lounge is also, I don't know if I would call it a DBA or something like that, but an association with this parent company. And in the stores that they have, not even overseas, but in LA and things like that, it's always like this kind of setup. Kind of like a mattress store, and then they might have like a subsidiary like mattress lounge or something like that.
So let me get this straight. The business is selling lounge chairs?
It's massage chairs, yes, sir.
We thought it was,
bar.
we thought it was a bar.
No, it-
Yes, sir.
isn't the one in LA, not just sell, isn't it also like a spa type thing?
My friend actually worked for the company in LA about 10 years ago. I know they're a lot bigger there.
Right.
I don't know. I just saw some pictures of the buildings from their company. I haven't been there myself. But I think, like, given the space, I mean, it's a large space. And I think I'm guessing they want to have their massage chairs, in an environment where, people could test it out, kind of loungy, I guess.
So the condition they're asking for, just from one clarification, existed for 10 years beforehand without a variance.
I could not find any record of a variance
That had been approved.
explained it.
Okay,
correct.
so they're really asking for nothing different than what had been there historically.
Just with two different tenants now occupying the same spaces.
Okay. Would, to your point about the lounge, to keep it in the appropriate context, the shape and size, would the Saragen Lounge, would the lounge word have to be added to make it work, or does it not matter if the lounge word is added to the signage or not?
So if you're talking about sign area, the backer board is actually what sets the
Okay.
sign area. So if
So as long as they keep that same dimension, they're
they
fine.
could keep the same dimension and work the word lounge into the south, fine.
Or not, is fine.
it's-
Okay. Right,
It's the backer board that sets it.
got it.
I think some of the problems that we're having down at this end is that it doesn't go together, the two signs. Whereas when we saw the Verizon one,
It flowed. The
It
colors are all
blended.
blended. The colors here just, you see the difference, like,
Well, the orange and the red,
Yep.
and then the orange stripe at the top,
Yeah.
looks a little,
versus the solid red.
And that's the color you're asking for, the red?
It's their corporate color, sir. Yeah, I actually did their location in Glenview as well, and it was basically the same sign. It's kind of like, if you know the company, you know the company, and if you don't, it kind of sounds like a bar too, with the font styles.
Yeah, I think now lounge would be a little more confusing, I think.
Right, they'd really
Now
think
that
it's
we
a
know
bar.
what the business is.
Be disappointed.
How is this sign lit?
So this is a internally lit front lit channel letter. So it's gonna have a translucent, probably red acrylic face.
Yeah.
And then it's gonna just be illuminated by LEDs from the inside, and it's gonna shoot outside, front only. So it's basically like a regular channel letter. Every front lit channel letter you see, but this one is, it's gonna be on a box to match that PB Bop sign.
So the backboard, it doesn't count the same color as the backing, right? You would only count the out-to-out dimensions on the lit portion of the letters. I guess that was
So
my-
we count, typically, what the code says is that the backer board is part of the sign. So
Okay.
it's the,
So whether it's lit or not.
whether
that-
it's lit or not.
Okay, all right,
It just happens to be very similarly colored to the wall itself in this
got
case.
it, okay.
Is that orange stripe across the top going to be staying?
So Baby Bop, when they did, if you look at the other side of the building, they did the entire building in cooperation with the property manager.
And then there's the monument sign that's got both of them on what, Ring Road? Or
It's
whatever,
act-
the
it-
Mall Drive,
it
whatever it's called there.
faces, it actually faces Town Line. It's roughly, you can see the shadow of it there.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions, anyone? Okay. This is also, I should know, notices went out, and we didn't receive any responses, I'm assuming,
Correct.
as well. And then we have the 21.5 standards for a variation within our packets that are part of the record. This is a public hearing, so we have to ask whether anyone wants to speak from the public, but it does not look like that is so we can close the public hearing. Any other questions or comments by the commission with respect to the request? Jim?
On point, discussion of standards variation, staff's comment under point 1 there. The last sentence says, "This unit would typically be allowed to display the proposed sign without a variation." What,
The south elevation sign is within the sign area. This unit would be allowed. The sign, the total sign area, though, for Baby Bop, being on this elevation is what is causing the problem. What I would suggest, honestly, if this does move forward with a positive recommendation and the village board is in agreement, I will probably speak at the committee of the whole meeting and draft the ordinance to clarify what exactly has caused the variation here. But it is, I would say, more the Baby Bop sign placement than anything else.
but that was approved already.
Approved and installed,
Yep.
yes.
And the West Coming Soon sign is temporary, it'll come down. This,
Yes, sir.
okay. Al?
So maybe I'm forgetting something, and the reason I'm asking is, so the signs, the Sarah Lounge, they're 92 square feet apiece, right? And that's the 184 over 100.
Yes.
So, but then if you add the other sign that they're recommending over the door, that would increase the signage area because they're both visible on that same face?
So the west elevation total square footage
Yeah,
does comply. It's the placement of a second sign on the tenant space. The sign code allows one sign per
Okay.
tenant space.
got it. So
And
it's,
to put the canopy sign above the door
I get it.
is a second sign.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Really quickly, in regards to the sign, I noticed on the Verizon and the Qdoba building, there's signs on the side of the building. So the coming soon is going to come down and there's going to be nothing here? Is that it, what I,
So,
last,
sorry.
if you go to the last picture, the one with the 215, So you see how on the side of Verizon, there's something there? And then on this one, there's the coming soon, for the Sierra Gym on the coming soon. So there's going to be, it's going to be empty, where this one wasn't empty.
The other you showed had it there.
Go back to
Sorry,
the
I went
west
the wrong
elevation.
direction.
Yeah.
There.
So is this the same? I think that's what you're seeing.
Oh, that is what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, because he's, so
Well,
that's where the.
Ma'am, I believe this one's already been
See,
approved.
that was one of the other variations, because they got two signs on this
Oh.
frontage.
Got it.
So this particular, the main identification sign on this elevation complies with the code and has a permit already.
That's the red.
The
on the
red,
right.
yeah.
And
The,
it's the one, the secondary sign over the door.
it's the secondary sign over the door that requires the variation.
Okay.
And the words underneath it.
Yes. The total package of the canopy signage.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? Anybody?
I don't know that I really have a problem with the secondary sign, but the added words below it, I don't buy off on that.
Anyone else? Any other discussion? What?
What does it say below here, below the
What are the 3 Rs?
It says relax, recharge, and repeat, which is kind of their slogan, but you're right, the size on that is 5.9 inches, and it being even higher than the door, probably by 3 or 4 feet, I don't even know if that's visible. I mean, we could,
It's very, I mean, you can't read it.
I can't read it with my glasses on, but it's maybe a good thing because then you know it's not a lounge, like a restaurant.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, if not, we have a standing motion to make findings of fact and recommend approval of certain variations, being one, a variation from section 19.3C6A to increase the maximum allowable sign area from 100 feet to 184 square feet to allow both tenant spaces to display signs on the south elevation. And secondly, section 19.3C6A to permit a second wall sign on the west elevation to be installed on the canopy above the unit entrance. And we need a second for that.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, now we need a roll call.
So we're taking them both at once.
You don't want to? Then-
I'll
okay.
lose out anyhow, so it
Okay,
doesn't
then
really matter.
we're taking them both at once. Okay.
Commissioner Lees,
Yes.
Commissioner Heidner,
No.
Commissioner Nabbitt,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
and Chairman Morris.
Yes. Okay. All right. Good luck.
thank you so much.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you for
you.
your time.
All right. Next, we have approval of the minutes of the of the January 31st, 2024 meeting as modified slightly to fix a couple of things.
I can rapidly review what was modified. On page 5, where's the rest of my minutes here?
Shall be.
What did I do?
Are they all there?
They're there,
You gave him back.
somewhere. Please hold. Alrighty, on page 5, there's a word that should have been area. It was the typo R instead of area. On page 11 of the minutes, the word based should read base, just above the second motion. And in the second motion, Commissioner Cotton voted twice. She voted both for and against. The correction would be to, the additional nay vote was actually Commissioner Heidner. So with those corrections, we would be looking for the motion.
Okay. So we have a standing motion to approve. We need a second.
I'll second.
We can do it by acclamation. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, those are approved.
Thank you.
Then we have any development review.
I have brief development review. Just a couple of notes for you. Last night at the Committee of the Whole meeting, the owner of the former Toys R Us appeared in front of the committee and represented both himself and a prospective tenant. Pickle Mall had withdrawn and elected not to expand north of Texas, essentially. So there's another company that is experiencing significant growth, Ace Pickleball. They operate in a very similar fashion, and they requested the opinion of the committee with respect to a minor amendment to the approved special use to basically replace the references that were specific to pickleball. They had elevations that were part of their package. They also had a competition court, which Ace Pickleball does not want to include in their plan. They don't have a competition court. They just have regular play courts, so no spectator area. The committee of the whole is in favor of that, so the amendment to the special use ordinance would go forward on the 19th, and they expect to begin construction pretty rapidly. We
It'll
have
just be a different
just a different operator.
operator that's in the
Very
same
similar. They have
facility.
similar, the operation's actually strikingly similar in terms of the app and being able to be a member or not a member, so it was pretty comparable.
I missed it, but are they coming from somewhere else? Or are they just new?
They are new. So the way that this particular company works is they offer franchise opportunities to to people. This particular franchisee operates one in New Jersey currently, and this would be their second. And they have, I don't think there are two in any one state. So out of the 8 to 10 that they have open right now, they're all in different states, and they've got something like 40 or 50 projected in the next year. So, any other questions on that one? Pure Bar is a fitness studio that's actually in Vernon Hills currently, who's requesting a conversion certificate to operate, to actually relocate over to a vacant unit underneath the AMC. They were in front of the committee of the whole last night for a conversion certificate. There's no special use requirement for fitness unless it involves children's fitness. So the board was in favor of that conversion certificate. So they are in for permit now, and we'll be moving ahead. Tapville Social is a business that had proposed a unique concept to the committee of the whole last month and again a few weeks ago. They are a self-pour business that also allows customers to take beverages out of the unit and into the common area of the mall. They operate at several malls in the area, but obviously not here. They were in front of the committee of the whole because they require a liquor license class to be created that would allow self-pour. They have a card system where you do check in with a host, they verify your age, you can put a very limited amount of money on the card. You're, I believe, allowed 32 ounces per day on a card, and then it's done. So the village board directed staff to go ahead and create the license class language to add to the code.
I believe they have places like that in the city. It's a lot of new concept where it's just self-serve, you walk in. But what is the village's, I mean, it's craft beer, I'm guessing, correct?
It's not there. They don't actually produce. So it's a mix of craft beers and
Just- right.
common regular mass production.
And then, correct me if I'm wrong, so people are going to walk around like that?
So part
Is
of
that allowed to walk around with open?
inside, so they would define the premises as the entire common area of the mall. So the regulations that would be attached to this would be the mall actually would be obtaining a joint liquor license with them. The mall staff would have to be trained to spot the branded cups. They have to have a unique, easily identifiable cup if you leave the store. So there's some other things attached to it.
That's a dumb idea.
But you can't go in any stores, though,
You
right?
can go into stores that permit beverages in the stores. But any store could opt out, and a lot of stores don't want outside food or beverage brought in.
I wonder how they control, I mean, how many, like, beers you can get at once where they could go out of there and give it to someone else.
You can take one. You can't buy a beer for somebody else. So if a couple went in, both people have to present their ID to get the card.
Got it.
So it's fairly well controlled. And the police chief spoke with the chiefs of the other towns in the area that already have this, and they they didn't express any major concern.
Right.
Do the other tenants in the mall know about this?
I don't know if they know yet. I don't know. I'm not sure. The Yard House permit is under review. And then just other news, the American Hotel Register building demolition is going to be starting fairly soon. The fence is up, and we've had our pre-demolition meeting with them to go over the process. So you'll see that.
Who's doing the demolition? I mean, not what company, but who's paying for that?
It was purchased by a developer who does not intend to keep it.
What happened to American Hotel Register?
It's been vacant for a few years.
Why do I not know that? I thought it was still a private company.
The developer doesn't want to put the
Where have I been?
humongous freight transfer warehouse anymore there.
No, this is a different.
A different
project.
developer? Okay.
We do not have a concept from them yet.
Does the demolition include the warehouse?
They intend to keep that warehouse,
Okay. Okay.
but the office building will be coming down.
Any more good stores coming?
We haven't had anything yet. Nothing since the last meeting.
It looks like Perry's is almost ready to open.
April 15th is the projected date, yes.
Oh.
They're completing the last handful of final inspections with us now.
And still nothing for Chili's?
Nothing recently.
Or Bally's? Okay. Right.
So I have a general question. Why doesn't the village like overhangs?
You know, I don't know. I have to ask. I'm fairly certain that the current Public Works Director, he's inherited that. I don't think it's anything new. So
Right.
I'll check with the staff who's been around longer and see if there's any history to it.
Okay. I know there's some concern with landscaping, but, you know, you could modify the landscaping or push it back a little bit.
Sure.
As long as there's no sidewalk.
Right. Yeah, it could just be something that's been in our development ordinance, and nobody's questioned it, so I can ask them.
Just curious.
Okay. So do we have anything coming up at this point now?
I do not have a hearing in the hopper at the moment.
Okay.
We have a unusual item that has pre-approval. The Melody Farm, one of the Melody Farm lots, does not require any review. There's a bank building that was not constructed. That's
By Shake Shack? That one?
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So you will not see it because it was pre-approved as part of the PUD. So as long as it's consistent with the character of the other buildings.
Okay.
Did Planet Fitness move in where that other youth activities
Next door.
business was going to go?
Next door.
Next to it.
Okay. If there's nothing else, we have a motion to adjourn. We need a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? I'm guessing no. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, we're adjourned. Good night.
Thanks, everybody. Which one? I think so.